Hello! How are we all doing?
Actor and YouTuber Joe Sugg enjoys an audience of millions on social media.
What happened to our summer? It's not right. I want a refund. It is the ultimate dream job. It's essentially going out, having fun with your friends. There's a platform where I can create content and people around the world can enjoy it.
And in 2018, millions more got to know him when he reached the final of Strictly Come Dancing.
I would always see myself as being a proper country bumpkin from the depths of Wiltshire. I grew up in a very small village called Laycock and spent most of my childhood inventing things to do to keep myself entertained.
Joe's the younger brother of Zoe, also known as social media influencer Zoella.
Me and my sister were really close growing up as kids. We used to buy blank cassette tapes with our pocket money and we'd record our own pretend radio shows. My whole YouTube career definitely was a result of my sister, and she was like, you need to do this. The creative spark that me and my sister have, I think, comes from my mum. As far as I know, mum's side of the family come from Wiltshire. I've got a really close relationship with my grandparents on my maternal side. It's hard to remember a time when they've not been around. They used to come around our house every Sunday. They've been like a real big part of our upbringing, I think. I would love to know more about that side. I feel like someone in my family had a link to the seaside in Ramsgate. I know that my grandparents used to go there a lot and spoke about going there a lot. I'm excited. It'd be quite awful to find out someone in my family history was a real villainous character. I hope that doesn't come up. If it does, I also want to point out now I'm a lovely person, okay? It's nothing to do with me. So I am on my way to go and visit my mum and my sister to try and find out some more information because I feel like they know a bit more than I do about my family history. Don't have to knock, ring the bell. One of these. Hello! All right.
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Here to learn a bit more about the family.
I'm so excited.
So am I. Me with not many clothes on.
Another photo of Joe and I.
Did I not like wearing clothes as a child?
You always wore shorts. You wouldn't wear trousers.
Yes. In the summer, nothing at all. By the look of it. Is this me?
Aww.
Is this me?
That's you and your granddad.
Tell you
Grandad
what,
Chapman.
Grandad Chapman.
Your
Granddad
dad.
Chippy. Yes.
podgy old wrists over there.
Yeah, I like the wrist roll.
Little rosy cheeks.
Oh, wow.
I love this photo.
And this would have been probably 1963.
He was so
were
handsome.
Good-looking bloke, isn't he?
Was, yeah.
I used to love going round for Sunday roasts at Nan and Grandad's.
Yeah.
Because Grandad would always have his big chef hat on and his
Yeah.
apron, and he would get his carving
Always
knife
carve.
out.
Always carve. Yes, Grandad liked family.
Yeah.
He was a really
Real
family.
family man.
Yeah.
And this is Nan.
More James. And this is Nan. Your Nana Philpott.
By the sea.
It might have been Ramsgate. Actually, that does look like Ramsgate Harbour.
And Nan grew up in Ramsgate.
Yes.
I always just thought that Nan and Grandad both came from Ramsgate.
No, they met in the RAF.
Oh.
So they met just around here.
Wow, this is an old photo.
Wow.
Oh. Do you know who this
So
is?
this is Harry
Harry.
and Doris
Yeah.
Philpott, Nan's
it?
parents.
Yes.
Our great-grandparents.
So I never knew her name was Doris.
What did
I
you
thought
think
that.
she was called then?
Just great Nanny Philpott.
I love that coat. And look at his suit, trousers.
It's like what you'd wear on the Strictly ballroom floor. Do you know what I mean? It's like that.
His dad, your great ×2 grandfather, was Henry Philpott. So this is his marriage certificate.
Okay, 1911.
Ebenezer Chapel, Ramsgate.
Ramsgate, okay.
He was
He's
25 and he married Mabel Louise Pritchard,
Yeah.
who was 24.
Yes.
Her dad was Albert.
Albert, so he would be my three times great-grandfather.
Yeah.
He's a telegraph operator, so that's like, what would that have been? Operating
1911,
telephones.
Like Morse code, I would
Oh,
imagine,
really?
that kind of thing.
Which, but like, we're quite techie people. Yeah. Apple don't fall far from the tree.
It doesn't.
Does it?
Oh,
That's so interesting. What's that middle name?
Le Mesurier? Le Measurer?
Albert Le Mesurier Pritchard.
That's
Well,
a very
Le
French
Mes-
name.
Yes.
That,
So
yeah, definitely.
Your nan has always said that she thinks that there is a French connection.
I always assumed that we were like just
UK,
English.
yeah.
So to see a name like Le Mesurier in there is a bit of a bombshell moment.
Yeah. I'm going to go away and find out a bit more about the Chapman side, our
Yes.
granddad Chapman, as I can't really come with you, as I'm I'm with
Expecting a child.
almost at the point of.
Yeah. So you're going to stay home, brew the little one. I am going to go on a little adventure, by the looks of it, at Albert's
Albert.
history.
Le Measurer.
Pritchards.
Le
The
Measurer.
Pritchards, yeah.
While his sister Zoe searches for more information about their grandfather Richard Chapman's family, Joe's investigating their grandmother Carol Philpott's line to see what he can discover about his great-great-great-grandfather Albert Le Mesurier Pritchard.
Albert, Meseurier, Pritchard. Search. Oh, okay. 1861, Channel Islands Census. Albert L.M. Pritchard, Mother Emily Pritchard, Father Thomas Pritchard, birth about 1845, St. Helier, Jersey, Channel Islands. From the Le Mesurier name, I was starting to think, okay, it's going to be somewhere in France, but that's so cool. A little tiny island. Okay, so here I have... It's so hard to read. So we had Thomas Pritchard Sr., who was the head of the house. He was married, and his occupation was a clerk. And then he had a wife called Emily, who was 51. It looked like they had quite a few kids. 7 children. Mary J, Delphina, Adolphus. It's like a wizard's name, Adolphus. Unmarried, 18. He was a clerk for the telegraph company. Then we got Albert, my great-granddad ×3. He was 16 on the census. He was a messenger for, I'm guessing, the same telegraph company. That's amazing. That's really cool.
Joe now knows that the parents of his great-great-great-grandfather Albert were called Thomas and Emily, and they had 7 children, including Albert and his older brother Adolphus, who both worked for a telegraph company. To see if he can find out more about the Pritchard brothers' intriguing line of work, Joe has come to the Science Museum in London. He's meeting Elizabeth Bruton, Curator of Technology and Engineering.
So Liz, I've come to learn a bit more about my great-grandfather ×3, Albert, and his older brother, Adolphus. They worked for a telegraph company.
So we might think that we live in this amazing world of like new connectivity. You know, we can connect to the furthest corner of the world, but global communications really begins in the Victorian age with the electrical telegraph. So before that, if you wanted to communicate with someone, you essentially had to write them a letter.
Adolphus was a clerk, and Albert was a messenger.
So a telegraph clerk sits in a telegraph office and taps out a message in Morse code. But messengers were also an essential part of it, who would have delivered the message to a person's home or to a workplace or hospital or wherever.
Right, so is that like when you'd have people turn up and go, I've got a telegram for you?
Exactly.
That was a messenger?
Yeah, but Albert was later a telegraph clerk as well.
Right.
So these are much, much later electric telegrams. This one is dated the 10th of December 1945.
Yeah.
And it just says, congratulations, best wishes, Fred.
It's like looking at like an antique tweet.
Electrical telegraphy was developed in the 1830s and 40s. The most widely used system worked by sending and receiving messages along a cable via electrical signals known as Morse code, named after its inventor, Samuel Morse.
We've got here a Morse buzzer, so a telegraph operator would have used something like this to send a message. So that's a dash, that's a T. Would you like to try and...
I would love to go. Do you know what? I've seen things
Yes.
like this in like war films where they're not even looking, they just know exactly what they're doing like that.
And you would learn it off by heart. Would you like to send maybe Joe? That
Yes,
would be
yeah,
relatively
that's
straightforward.
Okay, so it would be... That's a dot?
Yep. That's a J.
So that'd be a J?
Yep.
Oh, where's O? And E.
Yep.
Has that been it?
Yep, there you go, Joe.
So it would take quite a while to send... It'd be like, I guess, like the early days. I remember having my first mobile phone. You could only write a certain amount in a text, so you kind of want to keep the message down as short as possible.
Yep. They could probably do about 40 to 80 words a minute.
Okay. You can see how it kind of goes into like a bit of a rhythm.
Yep.
And with enough practice, but that was very slow. It was a lot slower than my great grandfather. Albert lived in Jersey. Mm-hmm. Do you know why there would have been a need for it there in particular, or is that just sort of, at the time it was expanding everywhere?
Well, sort of all of the above, actually.
When Joe's great-great-great-grandfather Albert was working for the telegraph company in the mid-19th century, telegraphs could only be sent across land via overhead cables. In a push to extend long-distance communication even further and to reach France and the continent from England, a cable had been laid underwater, directly on the seabed. The next challenge was to try and connect small islands in the English Channel, like Jersey, with the UK mainland and Europe.
Jersey Times, January the 19th, 1863. Interesting experiments at the Jersey Telegraph Office. We are enabled to report a feat in telegraphing, an opportunity having been afforded of placing Jersey with the English capital. It was a rather remarkable coincidence that two young Jerseymen should be on duty at the Threadneedle Street office, who had been formerly employed at the office in Jersey, Mr. Pritchard and Mr. Gavey. So Mr. Pritchard is Albert, my great-grandfather, times 3.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he moved from Jersey to London.
Yep.
So did Adolphus, did he also go to London?
He stayed in Jersey.
Oh, okay. London replies, Pritchard is here. Who's there? All of the British press and Jersey Times. So they're all there. They're all excited to be a part of this. Jersey, what weather in London? Typical, the first thing you ask.
Yeah.
How's the weather?
Yes.
Albert says, beautifully fine, more like summer. The replies were given almost instantaneously.
So you know exactly what your great-grandfather times 3 was doing on that evening in January 1863.
That's brilliant. But to actually, to have their conversation, I felt like I was reading like a WhatsApp conversation, but of my great-granddad times 3 having a chat with his workmates.
But it is also an incredibly exciting scientific and technological experiment to prove that you can send telegraph messages reliably underwater, pretty much at the speed of light.
Which back then would have been incredible. We may add that the experiments were in every way highly satisfactory. So my great-grandfather times 3 would have been part of this historical change of the way we communicate. He sort of got into a very interesting line of work, it seems.
Yep.
Wow. So it really did change the world. So what happened next?
We've got a document here from 1871.
Burials in the parish of St Helier in the island of Jersey. Uh-oh. Oh dear. 11th of March, 1871. Adolphus Pritchard, at 28 years old. And he died from... Is that a PH? Phil?
Physis.
Physis.
Yeah. It's a form of tuberculosis.
Oh, okay. No, that's so young as well. That's a year younger than I am now. Albert's big brother, who probably, you know, helped him massively get into the telegraph world. He sort of was on this really fun, exciting journey with his brother to learn it all, but not anymore. Oh no, it's another one. Thomas, so this is the father. October the 10th, 1870, Thomas Pritchard, my great-grandfather times 4, at the age of 62, and died from the exact same thing. So that means Albert lost his father and his oldest brother. Wow. Adolphus and Albert are both in this new wave of technology. It does kind of remind me of me and my sister. We were very early on in the age of social media and creating content. I feel like my sister is like the Adolphus. In my head, I instantly sort of go to that thing of imagining Adolphus saying to Albert, "You should get involved in this is really cool." And then Albert jumped aboard, I jumped aboard, and gave it a go, and it's led to a career. For Albert, I don't know, but I can imagine just getting over the fact you've lost your father and then you lose your brother. It must have been the worst feeling ever. And also what it does to a family when they lose someone from a disease like that.
To find out more about the impact of TB on Albert and his family, Joe has come to the Pathology Museum in London to meet medical historian Dr. Helen Bynum.
At the time that Thomas Pritchard was born, so in the early part of the 19th century, 1 in 4 deaths was caused by tuberculosis.
Wow.
So it was a really, really common disease, and it really took out a lot of people.
Yeah.
Adolphus, probably similar sort of age to you.
Yeah, I'm 29.
So he's absolutely smack bang in the middle when people would be dying of TB.
That's what's scary, yeah. What was the main sort of cause?
You get it when you breathe in somebody else's germs. The bacteria travel down into your lungs. This is a specimen of a lung that's in not such great shape. Fairly gruesome. The bacteria can destroy a huge area of tissue.
Oh wow, it's made an actual hole into the lung.
In a person like this, they would be starting to experience quite serious breathing difficulties.
Right.
And when you cough up this stuff, you send it out into the atmosphere.
So it was contagious?
It was contagious, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Adolphus stayed in Jersey, so it would make me think that at some point Adolphus probably caught physis or tuberculosis from his father.
It could have come from the family, but it could have come from outside the family as well. If we turn to our first document.
Yeah. The Lancet, Jersey from a sanitary point of view, September 28th, 1872.
The Lancet is one of the 2 really important medical journals at the time.
Jersey is a health resort. A large section of the inhabitants are not Jersey-born, but find themselves resident there for the sake of the climate. So Pritchard's were Jersey residents, but a lot of people were coming from outside of Jersey for the health benefits of the fresh air there.
Yeah, they were coming as health tourists.
Yeah.
So they're importing their disease.
Right. Physis is common among the natives.
So there's lots of opportunities for your family to suffer from tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Let's turn to our next document.
Oh, I recognise this. Oh no. We've got another burial in the parish of St Helier. Oh, it's Emily. Emily Lariche, widow of Thomas Pritchard. So Albert's mum has died of the same thing. And this is a year after Adolphus. I can't even begin to imagine how that must have felt. Another burial in the parish of St Helier. 1874, Emily Elizabeth Pritchard, aged 39, Albert's older sister, Physis again. It's year upon year, but that to me makes me feel like it was definitely passing from family member to family member. Makes me realise how lucky I am to actually be here today.
Let's do our next one.
I don't want to turn this one over, it's going to be the same, isn't it? No. So, oh, here we go. 1875, Helena Sophia Pritchard, aged 26, Albert's younger sister.
She's the younger sister, yeah.
Physis again.
In the space of just 5 years, Joe's great-great-great-grandfather Albert lost 5 members of his family to a disease that killed an estimated 4 million people in the UK in the latter half of the 19th century.
From 7 children down to 4, both parents gone, all from this disease. Must have been an awful situation. I'd be so sort of mentally torn as to what to do, because Albert was in London. If he does go back to Jersey, he could be going back to a death sentence for himself. And on the other hand as well, he's got an incredible career ahead of him, being this front runner and pioneer of the telegraph world.
So why don't we have a look at our last document?
Well, I'm glad, because it's not a death report.
This is a census document, and it's actually a census from 1881.
So we're now, from the last death, we're 6 years ahead.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Ramsgate. Oh. Albert Pritchard, head of the house, 36 years old. So Albert's moved to Ramsgate. He's a telegraph clerk still?
I think that's Clark,
Yeah. So he still has the same job as well. Hannah Pritchard is his wife, so he's married, 35, and they've got a load of children. We've got Helena Pritchard, who's 6, so named after his sister who passed away. Emily, named after his mother, who's 10. 5 kids. Things are looking up.
Things are looking up,
for old Albert. I think mentally, it would have been so tough to lose 5 family members in a row, to the point where I wouldn't be surprised if he just sort of shut himself away, just sort of gave up. Whereas it's nice to see that he's now in Ramsgate. And my mum used to talk about going to Ramsgate a lot for holidays as kids, and it's crazy to think that that's probably because of Albert moving here all those years ago, in the 1880s.
And surviving.
Yeah, and surviving, yeah. Good on him for starting his own family and starting a new life.
Moving on, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe has come to Ramsgate on the Kent coast to see if he can find out why his great-great-great-grandfather Albert moved here. He's meeting genealogist Anna Baggiani.
Ramsgate in its heyday, it was a very popular resort for people who were looking for a nice life and a healthy life for their family. The other thing I suspect is that career-wise, he would have decided this was the right place to be.
Yeah.
This is a pension record for Albert.
Clark Submarine Telegraph Company in Jersey, 20th of November, 1860, and his wages were 10 shillings?
10 shillings.
10 shillings. And then after that, obviously, the move to London happened. And then, really interestingly, he became a clerk in charge of the submarine telegraph company in Ramsgate. And he went to 50 shillings a week with a house.
Yes, that's going up in the company in a
Wow.
big way. Yep. He carried on working till 1897.
Okay, he stayed in Ramsgate for quite a while. Good on him.
Good move.
Finally, a bit of good luck.
Yes, exactly.
Finally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
1901, sadly, he dies here in Ramsgate.
Right. It's a nice ending in a way because, you know, it's not a bad place to come and spend the rest of your life.
Exactly. If you look at the next document, here we have your family tree.
Wow. Albert Le Mesurier Pritchard, if we go back further, his parents were Thomas Pritchard. He married Emily Le Riche. Her parents were Thomas Le Riche and Marie Sorel. And they were born in 1771 and 1775, which is incredible to go that far back. Her parents, Jean Sorel Jr., he was married to Marguerite.
Marguerite.
I wanted to go Wiltshire then, so Margaret,
Yes.
Margaret Thacker.
Yes.
And then Jean Sorel Sr., and he was married to Marie Le Marchand, who was my 7 times great-grandmother, which is just the most French-sounding name
Yes.
I've ever heard.
Yes.
Jean and Marie had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other children. So Jean Sorel Jr. was one of 6.
If you look at the next document,
1753. Marie Le Marchand, I'm guessing that says refugee,
yep,
wife of Mr. Jean Charel. Entry
enterré means inter someone.
was buried the 23rd day of July.
Buried in Jersey.
Right, Mr.
Sorel.
Jean Sorel, refugee as well. So my great-grandparents times 7 were refugees
Yes.
from, I'm guessing, France.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So Jean and Marie left France to come to the Channel Islands and Jersey in particular to start a new life.
Yes.
So right back at the start, when I was with my mum and my sister, my mum did say that my nan told her there was a rumour that there may be some sort of French connection with the family. They weren't lying. It's quite clearly there. My word, the plot thickens. I feel like I've been on a bit of an emotional roller coaster learning about Albert's life from the very start in Jersey all the way up to the day that he died here in Ramsgate. It was a tough journey for Albert. I do really love the fact that he stuck to what was clearly his passion, a job that he loved and a job that he, in the end, finally got really rewarded for. But it doesn't just stop there, it goes further now. My 7 times great-grandparents were refugees. So, you know, I'm sort of bracing myself for what could probably be quite a sad story.
To find out why his 7 times great-grandparents, Jean and Marie, fled France in the mid-18th century, Joe's come to meet Sandra Robinson, a genealogist who specialises in French family history at the French Church in Soho.
I found out that my 7 times great-grandparents were refugees.
In those days, refugee meant that they were French Protestants who had left France to come to a Protestant country in order to continue worshipping in their own way. French Protestants were also known as Huguenots.
Right.
So, if you pick up your map, you can see how close Jersey is to France.
Yeah.
The Sorel family were based in the village of Fresnes, in your little X. They were comfortably well-off merchant drapers.
Okay. What would have been the reasoning for leaving? Was there conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants? Did Fresnes become a dangerous place to live?
France was a majority Catholic country, but the Protestants have the right to worship. However, from about the 1630s, things became very difficult.
Tensions had always existed between the Catholic majority and the Protestant minority in France. But when Louis XIV came to the throne in 1643, the situation escalated further. As a devout Catholic, he believed that Protestants, known as Huguenots, were a threat to his absolute authority as monarch. He ordered the destruction of every Protestant church and passed a series of laws prohibiting Protestants from practicing their religion and forbidding them from leaving the country.
In 1685, Louis XIV said, Protestantism is outlawed, that's it. And all Protestants were forbidden from emigrating on pain of death.
Yeah, so you're trapped, basically.
You're trapped.
They couldn't leave, but if they stayed, they also would suffer an awful fate.
Yes.
So what would have happened to Jean and Marie during this time?
Both Jean and Marie were born during these years after 1685, when Protestantism was outlawed.
So how would my family have practiced their religion?
If you look at your next picture, you'll see how they would meet at night in the middle of a forest or behind a hedgerow to worship in secret.
Oh, right, just to
Because it
practice
wasn't
their faith.
safe to do it anywhere else.
It blows my mind that they had to go to these lengths just to practice their religion.
And this is the original entry of the baptism of your 6 times great-grandfather, Jean Sorel Jr.
Junior, wow.
Who was born in 1735. And that is the original entry in the Catholic registers.
Catholic, which they wouldn't have done themselves because they're Protestant. So were they forced into baptising their son?
Yes, that's exactly it. The law stated that every child had to be baptised Catholic within 24 hours of being born.
Wow, and that's forced upon
That's
them.
forced upon them.
On the 4th of August, 1735, I, the undersigned priest-vicar, baptised a son born of the actions of Jean Sorel and Marie Le Marchand. It's just the way they've written it, it's awful. It's like a son born of the actions of Jean Sorel and Marie Le Marchand. They've made it sound like they've committed a crime almost, it feels like, from reading that.
Only marriages in the Catholic Church were considered legal. So your ancestor is being labelled illegitimate within hours of his birth.
Yeah.
Because his parents married in the Protestant Church, which the Catholic priest did not recognise as a marriage.
That's baffling. It must have been so, like, unfair and tough to have to sort of go through all that.
In 1747, the King of France issued a new law targeting the last remaining Protestant areas in France, including Normandy, where the Sorel family were living. The law gave Catholic priests the power to round up children of Protestant parents aged between 5 and 16 and place them in Catholic convents without their parents' consent.
So we have a document here. It's a letter from the Mother Superior of a convent to the minister for Protestants.
That it has not been possible to fulfil entirely the orders of His Majesty. Good. Concerning the capture of several Protestant children. They would have had a list of children they had to go and collect, I'm guessing. I put that in nice words, to go and kidnap.
The priest would assemble local constabulary.
Yeah.
Their favourite time was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
They would arrive with axes and break the door down and pick up the children.
Jean and Marie had 6 children during this time.
In 1747, Jean Sorel Jr. was 12.
12 years old.
So he was exactly of the age that they would have been permitted to take.
They've been through almost too much. I'd be a nervous wreck. And the children would probably be aware of it as well. Because they probably hear other houses being broken into at night, and they would have seen their friends the next morning. They're just gone. It must have been awful. It's giving me goosebumps. They're bashing down our doors with axes, trying to steal our kids. So what happened next?
Well, we have an exciting document
List of the French Protestants that have left France for their religion and are now residing in the island of Jersey, 1750. So I'm assuming somewhere on this list, I'm going to hopefully see, oh, here we go, look. Jean Sorel, Susan Sorel, Anne Sorel, Mary Sorel, Catherine Sorel, Magdalene. So the children are all there. They made it to Jersey, but no parents.
Not yet. We
So they did
know
make
the
it.
parents made it.
Yeah.
So these children will have been smuggled out.
Wow.
They'll have travelled from Fresnes in
All
the
the
middle
way.
of Normandy. It's about 75 kilometres. And then at the coast, someone will have rowed them over to Jersey.
It's giving me goosebumps again. Just like the resilience, like they're not giving up. They are gonna beat this evil situation that they've been in. And also, blooming good parents, risking their lives day in, day out for the sake of their children. Good on them. I love that. A happy story. What's brave in French?
Courageux.
Mon grand papa. Courageux. When Jean and Marie put their children on that boat to Jersey, they had no idea what was going to happen on the other side. It must have been a really special family bond, I think. As long as they had each other, they were going to get through it, and they did, which I'm really thankful for. They made some huge decisions, and in doing so, that's led to the whole new start in Jersey, which has then led to, obviously, Albert moving to mainland UK, which then has led, obviously, to my more recent grandparents and me being here now. So it's just incredible.
Now that he's found out about his maternal grandmother, Carol Philpott's side of the family, Joe wants to explore her husband, his grandfather, Richard Chapman's line. He's come to see his sister Zoe, who's been doing some digging.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay, so after speaking with members of the family, we have this,
Oh, wow.
our granddad's family tree, and it goes back so far to 5 times great-grandparents.
5 times great. Wow.
It's like,
Okay, so Richard Chapman, grandfather. Mm-hmm. Arthur Salisbury Chapman, great-grandfather.
underneath this you should also have a picture of him,
Wow.
the baby.
Look at him. That is my great-grandfather. So
Arthur
Arthur.
Salisbury Chapman. This lady here is his mum.
Yeah, Ethelreda Woodward. So that's her mum, Mary Louise
Yes.
Wopshire,
Yeah,
our 3 times great-grandmother,
yeah,
and her mum,
yeah.
Emma Chester, 4 times great-grandmother. Good Lord. And she's married to William Henry Wopshire, and then William Henry's parents, William Sanford Wopshire,
Yes.
who's our 5 times great-grandfather. Mm-hmm. And he was married to Couth.
Yeah, Couth Anna Austin.
What a name.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to use Couth as a baby name option.
Yeah, oh, go on. You have to now.
I'm not sure.
At least a middle name, Couth.
And then look at his profession.
Minister St. Thomas Salisbury,
So he
Wiltshire.
was a minister.
He sounds interesting. I would love to go and explore him a bit further, see what he was all about. And also, Couth.
Learn a little bit more about his wife, Couth.
Couth Austin. We're off to Salisbury.
Joe's come to St Thomas's Church in Salisbury, where his 5 times great-grandfather William Sanford Wopshire was minister, to meet the current vicar, Kelvin Inglis.
St Thomas's dates to the 1400s. Your 5 great-grandfather would have been so familiar with this place.
It's so surreal to sort of be here and walking on the same stone, the same floor that he would have been walking on all those years ago, and seeing where he would have worked.
And in particular, we know that he was the minister here when this extraordinary doom painting was discovered. This is a huge and spectacular judgment painting.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It dates back originally to the 1470s, but in 1819 it was uncovered, and that's when your 5 greats was the minister here. So he would have been the one who saw the painting unveiled for the first time.
And he was like, keep it here. It's beautiful, and I would hope that my 5 times great-grandfather would have absolutely loved it and thought, we're keeping this.
As a minister here, he would have taken lots of services. He would have done the funerals and the weddings.
Yep.
He would also have done a different type of service. And if you look at the document in front of you,
Baptisms solemnised in the parish of St Thomas, Salisbury. So 1814.
1814, and that's the year that he became vicar, minister of this church.
Right.
Now, if you run down this list, you have the name of the baby.
William Henry, Wopshire.
And if you go over to the right-hand column, you will have the signature of the person who did the baptism.
Wopshire?
Wopshire.
Oh, it's his own dad?
Yes.
Amazing. So he baptised his own child in the church that he was working in. What an entrance.
I think that's a beautiful thing to do. Isn't that a wonderful thing to discover?
Yeah. He's had a busy couple of years. Oh,
Certainly
William Wopshire, yeah.
If you look in the column there, it tells you his address.
Oh, it says close.
Close. Close is the area around the cathedral.
Right.
So he would have lived somewhere in the close of the cathedral.
Wow. When I walked past there, I said, oh, I wouldn't mind living there. That's where I would want to live if I lived in Salisbury.
There you go. I think your next step needs to be to go just up the road to the close.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
To see if he can find out more about his 5 times great-grandparents, Joe's meeting historian Cheryl Butler in the Cathedral Close where the Wopshires lived.
In this period, a lot of people went into the clergy as a profession because it was a way you could progress in the world. Okay. And the Wopshires are quite an important clerical family. They live in a very nice house.
Right.
This one that we're in now.
Right, oh, so they would have lived in this actual house?
Yeah, so this is the family home.
Wow. When I walked in here, I said this would be the perfect place for like a Christmas dinner, Sunday lunch. So they could have been sat...
They could have been sat right
here where I am.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Cuth Anna, your 5 times great-grandmother, married William. So you are an Austin. And if we follow her line up...
William Austin, Henry Austin, William Austin, Henry Austin.
And right at the top...
John
Austin.
John Austin. 1624. Wow. 10 times great-grandfather. That's amazing.
You can see his son here, Henry, your 9 times great-grandfather. Well, he had enough money to send Henry here.
Eton?
Yeah.
I've heard of that. That is posh. Wow. I went to Corsham Comprehensive. Very different.
And so this lists all the people who went to Eton College.
Austin, 1673 to 1681. Henry, who's the son of John Austin, citizen and jeweller of London. So he's a jeweller. So yeah, John Austin made all his money in jewellery in London.
Yeah, so he's making and selling jewellery, yeah.
Wow. Do you know what's so weird? My mum makes jewellery.
Really?
Yeah, she makes
In
jewellery.
The genes.
Which means I feel like I'm now going back to London again.
Yeah, find out where the money was made.
Yeah.
I would think so. I'm sure there's plenty to discover about him.
Back off to London I go. Again.
To To find out about his 10 times great-grandfather John, who was a jeweller in 17th century London, Joe has come to meet historian Paul Jagger in the city's jewellery district.
I found out that and bear with me here, my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, his name was John Austin.
Well, we have a document here that shows the binding of apprentices.
John Austell. Would that have been John Austin? Or
Indeed. Certainly at this time it wouldn't necessarily have been the case that names were spelt consistently.
Yeah. Memorandum that I, John Austell, Esquire, son of Henry Austell of Peasmore in the county of Berk, yeoman do put myself apprentice unto Edward Cook, citizen and goldsmiths of London, for the term of 8 years. This is him signing up to like an apprenticeship.
Apprentice to a goldsmith.
So Henry said to his son, right, you need to go to London because that's where everything's sort of going on. Get yourself an apprenticeship. Good decision.
Absolutely. Your 10 times great-grandfather served an 8-year apprenticeship. I
used to be a roof thatcher, but my apprenticeship was, not even half what my 10 times great-grandfather would have had to have done. So that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time to sort of put aside to learn a craft.
It was a big move for a young man coming from Berkshire, from a farming family, to come to the city, possibly as young as 11.
Wow.
And certainly would have completed his apprenticeship by the age of 21.
Oh, my word. He's making me look bad. He's shown me up. From beyond the grave, he's shown me up.
So we have another document to have a look at.
So this says 30th of April, 1647. I, Cornelius Howe, do put myself apprentice unto John Austin, citizen and goldsmith of London. So we've sprung forward in time, and not only has he finished his apprenticeship, he's now the master teaching an apprentice.
Now that tells you something about how far and how fast he rose within his profession.
Yeah.
9 years later, he was of sufficient standing to be able to take on his own apprentice.
He must have been quite good. He must have stayed out the ale houses and actually concentrated on the apprenticeship. Good on him.
The fact he's described as a goldsmith of London also means that by this stage he'd become a member of one of the City of London's livery companies. In this case, the Goldsmiths Company.
The livery companies of London date back to the medieval period and were founded to regulate and support the diverse crafts and trades of the city, from tailors to fishmongers. The Goldsmiths Company, of which John was a member, started in 1327 and is one of 110 livery companies that still exist in London today.
So, Joe, the next document dates from just 20 years after he had taken on an apprentice, is a register of hearth taxes. Hearths are fireplaces.
Right.
At this point in time, there was a hearth tax. So for every fireplace that you had in your place of residence, you would be taxed.
Here we go. John Austin, goldsmith. He's got 16 fireplaces in his house.
16 fireplaces.
Who needs 16 fireplaces in their house?
Someone who perhaps has many servants.
Right. So he was doing well for himself. 16! My word. Like, most people on this list aren't even close. Poor Edward's only got 1. He was happy to be like, yeah, just chuck 16 in there and then I'm not going to even like them. He's showing off at this point.
Quite, maybe so.
Yeah.
So it tells you something about the status that he had risen to by this stage.
Yeah.
But this date's from 1666. Is that a date that rings a bell for you?
Yes. That was when the Great Fire of London?
Correct.
And he's got 16 fireplaces. It wasn't his fault, was it? There's a good chance it could have been.
No, it certainly wasn't his fault, but his home was on Foster Lane in the centre of the city in the year of the Great Fire.
On the 2nd of September 1666, what started out as a small blaze in a baker's shop just off Pudding Lane was transformed into an inferno by strong easterly winds. The fire raged for nearly 5 days, tearing through the city's densely packed wooden buildings and leaving 85% of the capital's population homeless.
Whoa, so this is what the Great Fire of London would have been like?
The whole of the sky just illuminated by fire.
That must have been awful.
This is a contemporary map of the city post the Great Fire.
Yeah.
You'll see the area in white.
Oh, wow, that's ginormous. That's all what got wiped out by the fire?
Correct.
My word. All the houses, people's homes. My 10 times great-grandfather lived on Foster Lane.
Now, where do you think that is in the city?
I've got such a bad feeling that it's going to be within the fire zone. Foster Lane, Foster Lane. Foster Lane, so he was right in the middle of it. Wow.
And everything within that area would have been absolutely devastated.
Gone.
And as you come up the lane on the right-hand side, that's the coat of arms of the Worshipful Company of Goldsmiths.
Oh.
The Goldsmiths Hall remains on that site to this very day.
It's still there.
Perhaps that's a place to continue your journey of discovery.
Yeah.
To find out what happened to John Austin after the Great Fire devastated the city, Joe has come to the Goldsmiths Hall on Foster Lane. He's meeting librarian Eleni Bide.
So you're coming into the main hall, the main meeting place of the Goldsmiths Company.
Wow. I feel like I've walked into an actual treasure. It's incredible.
This is the third hall that would have been on this site. As the fire kind of encroached across the city, it gutted Goldsmiths Hall.
All that beautiful craftsmanship just destroyed.
The room that John Austin would have gone into, it would have been very similar to this.
For a young farm boy to walk in here, to actually see something like this, I would have fainted, I think. I think I would have fainted. It's like Aladdin's cave.
The records of the Goldsmiths Company were saved from the Great Fire of London, so we can actually see, if we just go into the next room, what happened to John.
Well, lead the way.
So you can read some of our court minute books here.
There's his name, John Austin, in big bold letters. Warden of Goldsmiths of the City of London, 1667 and 1668.
So what you have here is John Austin as Prime Warden of the Goldsmiths Company. So he is essentially in charge of the company.
Right. It's incredible how he's gone from, being a young boy on a farm to becoming Prime Warden, sort of top dog role in his industry.
He's certainly come a really long way, but he's got a lot of issues to deal with. You have lots of your fellows in really difficult situations. Their shops have been burnt, they've lost all their stock. You also have the problem of Goldsmiths Hall as well. The building is completely gutted.
So he's got his work cut out, but he's head of the table. But at a very difficult time when there have been a lot of people sort of coming to him asking for help.
Absolutely. The company desperately needs money to rebuild its hall and to continue to support all the struggling goldsmiths out there. It doesn't need all the precious gold and silver gifts that had been given to the company by previous goldsmiths, so it decides to sell them.
My 10 times great-grandfather and his fellows decided to do something about it, to try and keep this place going and for future goldsmiths. Wow, so it's, big sacrifice to make.
They didn't sell everything, however. They did keep one or two pieces.
Wow. That is incredible.
This is one of the things that was deemed to be so important, it wasn't sold, and it's called the Bowes Cup.
Bowes Cup.
and it was actually used at Elizabeth I's coronation feast. So Elizabeth I drank out of this cup.
Wow. I would have loved to have seen Elizabeth I attempt it. Maybe she had a straw.
Who knows? So
my 10 times great-grandfather would have had a massive say in being like, no, we're going to keep this and not sell it on.
Yes, it would have been very important for him. There's a lot of up and down, but John is successful throughout it.
Sort of sticking at it and really making a name for himself.
There is another document that really shows you the extent of his success. His inventory, which is taken after he dies in 1670.
Of all singular the goods, chat tells rights and credits which late belonged unto John Austin Esquire. So, wow. He had a lot of things.
He certainly did.
Look at all his jewels. Item 1, pair of roses set with 7 large diamonds valued at £160.
Uh-huh.
Which in today's money, how much would that?
Oh, we're thinking very high-end Bond Street jeweller.
Oh, my word.
As a comparison.
A pair of roses with 34 diamonds. Who was this man? Valued at £40. 1 pair of pendants with 66 diamonds. What?
So in the whole inventory, if you count them up, there are over 1,600 diamonds.
My word.
And the list goes on.
Just goes on and on.
You can also see the names of some of his clients as well, because those who owed him money at his death were recorded.
Some big clients. The Duke of Albemarle. Countesses, dukes. What a career he had. It's like the ultimate success story. It's almost like it could be a book. He's also paved the way for future goldsmiths, so very proud of him. Very proud. I felt really inspired today. Amongst my ancestors, there's this reoccurring theme of determination. Throughout all those troubled times, they have really sort of stuck at it and worked hard, and it's paid off. That grit, determination, it's passed down through the generations. I think what they did was incredible. I'm so proud.